Hello friends, welcome back for another Betamax Blocker video. I'm going to call up a special guest today so we can talk some Brian Wilson. Just have to enter in the international calling prefix and reverse the charges. Operator, can you get me Mr. Jamie Brewster, please? Let's see if he picks up.
Hello? Hello, who's that?
Do you accept the charges?
Well, it depends it depends where you're calling from.
Somewhere slightly outside of your country.
Well, I guess yeah, as long as it's a brief call, I guess I can take it. Yeah, go on then. Yeah.
Oh. Hi, Jamie. Want to get on Zoom?
Hey, Alex, of course. It's
All
you.
right,
Of
just
course I'll accept the charges. I'll maybe we can split them 50-50.
How about 75-25?
Oh, okay then. All right. You're a hard man to deal with. We'll accept that. No problem.
All right. Oh, wait a minute. You're right here. I don't even need to
Oh,
call you.
oh, hey, that was crazy.
Well, that's how it goes. So, Jamie, how have you been?
Thanks, Alex. I've not been great, I have to be honest. Losing Brian last week was a heck of a shock for us all. And I met him and Melinda, and I'm very privileged to meet him. And yeah, I just felt devastated. And it connects with a few other things mentally that the whole thing, was a bit of a horrible day. And yeah, it's taken a bit of time to get my feet back on the ground a little bit. I'm better. I'm feeling a little better now. And how about you?
So, I'm much the same. I heard that announcement there last week, and I was at a loss for words for the
Yeah,
entire day. I couldn't even sit down to make a video to write anything. I did a
definitely.
small post on the community page, and that was the best I could do because, I
Sure.
mean, even though Jamie and I opened with a wacky joke, today we'll be looking at the legacy of Brian Wilson, and I
Of
thought it'd be
course.
better have another speaker involved. We can talk about our thoughts on Brian, his solo work. If you have thoughts, please comment them below. Love to
Okay.
hear from you.
Right.
So, Jamie, you mentioned that you'd met both Brian and Melinda. Can you tell me about Melinda? Because I never had a chance to meet her, even though I did get to meet Brian.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm glad you met Brian. That's lovely. Yeah, it was after Lucky Old Sun, which there it is. Fab
Hmm.
album. Super great
A
album.
wonderful album, one of my favorite of his solo albums too.
Definitely, definitely. Probably the second best for me, I think maybe. Yeah, we he came over with his wonderful band in the UK. He was touring around UK, and we went to Bournemouth on the south coast, and we saw him there. And he and Melinda were at. He was the short, a little while at the board, but she was there for quite a while, and I stopped and chatted with her, and. I said, I can't really remember, it's a long time ago now, but I just said that I felt that she had been a tremendous encouragement and savior of Brian. And,
Absolutely.
so it's lovely to just talk with her for a little while. And didn't have anything I had nothing for her to sign. And, she could have signed a shirt or something, but I don't think of things like that. But it was a privilege. And
Absolutely.
obviously losing her last year was catastrophic for Brian.
And a shock to all of us too,
Big
because,
time. It was
we
very
knew, of
sudden.
course, that Brian had been in very poor health for a long time, and was being very closely monitored. I remember when I met him, he had just had his back surgery, and
Okay.
we weren't allowed to touch him. You could walk up to him, and if he extended his hand, you could shake his hand, but if you didn't, couldn't touch him.
That,
And when you got your photo, you couldn't put your arm on his shoulder or anything.
no,
He was
right,
completely closed
right.
off from everybody. So he did shake my hand. I was surprised. He
Well,
didn't for everybody,
that's
but
fantastic. And that was at a gig, obviously.
yes, that was actually the Christmas tour in 2018. It was to celebrate Beach Boys' Christmas album. They did the whole thing, Blondie, Al, several,
Really? Oh,
Ron
wow.
Bogfiglio. And they did a few solo Christmas songs of Brian's, like Christmassy and that kind of stuff. And they did
Excellent.
a few classics like Run Run Rudolph, stuff like that. They had this Irish folk duo as the opening act,
Okay.
and they weren't very good. And
No.
everybody, as soon as they were done, would just
Yeah,
real
get
quick, so
off.
they keep
Yeah,
rolling, you know, that
yeah,
kind of
get
thing.
off.
Yeah, pretty much. They seem like very nice people, and they tried really hard. But
Yeah.
yeah, the audience they came for Brian. They didn't want to hear them sing.
No.
There was some song they did about cheese. It was very
Oh no.
strange, and
No,
yeah,
no,
so it
no.
was moving them
No.
along. But
What a
but
nice thing to have heard. No, I never knew he did that. That's interesting. Really
yeah,
good.
I have the lanyard actually too. I think I made sure to bring some goodies up from the TV room with me. I don't know how well it'll show up. I kind of have it tied on top,
Oh
but
wow.
for
Very
those who
important person.
can't see it, Brian Wilson presents the Christmas album live. So
That's fantastic, my friend. That'll eventually that'll be worth maybe some bucks, you know.
yeah, someone who comes after me can sell it. I'm keeping it. So,
Yeah. What a privilege anyway. Well done.
but yeah, but that was the only time, sadly, I got to meet him. I was lucky enough to see him on his last concert tour when he opened for Chicago. That
Oh
was around the
yeah.
time of this release here, Brian's last solo album, At My Piano, which I really like, At My
I do.
Piano. I mean, there's
Yep.
some people say there's not much here because it is technically, I guess, a cover album, but they're beautiful covers.
They are, yeah, for
He
sure.
did
I
it.
love that. I love the smile montage, particularly
Yep.
on Love and Mercy. Yeah, it's, and well done for doing it, because he'd when did he finish? He stopped touring, what, a couple of years ago, more than that, wasn't
hmm
it? I think, yeah.
It's either 21 or 22. I want to say
Yeah,
22.
yeah, more than a couple of years ago, really, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And amazing he did all this. I mean, the whole keeping on the road for so long, where he couldn't go on the road before in the 60s.
hmm Yeah,
And
absolutely.
look what he's achieved. Now the whole story is incredible.
And he was in a wheelchair during that
Yeah,
tour as well. I remember they wheeled him up to the piano and
yeah,
everything. So, and he played, he sang, did his thing. He was still Brian.
yeah,
Little little rougher, but still a
yeah,
genius, still a great artist and a great entertainer too.
for sure. I know such a lovely man. He wouldn't hurt a fly, you know,
Absolutely.
kind man.
So many wonderful tributes from all over, people in and out of
Um,
the Beach Boys camp, that kind of thing. The Beach Boys
I know.
website had a nice blurb about him.
Sure.
So,
Sure, I've
yeah.
seen, and a friend of mine in the radio business in the UK, his last show last week was a lot of Brian's songs, lesser known. And this week's show is um, artists who've been influenced by Brian with one of their Brian influenced songs. And I sent one in a little late because I didn't realize he was doing that. So it may be played next week. But yeah, that'll be a great show again. Guy's name is Chris Evans, and he's been in music all his life, and he knows, he shares our love of Brian's music and similar artists. So yeah, yeah. So there's a good show coming out there tonight. I'll probably catch it. We get it late in Spain, so I'll do it on catch up tomorrow, I guess. But
Gotcha.
I
No,
did
no, that
interview
sounds
him. I
amazing.
interviewed him on my channel a few months ago, and yeah, he's a great guy, and you know, when you get a good radio show with people who appreciate this wonderful sort of music, away from the mainstream, the BBC and I don't know what you have, but a lot of the stations, it's just the normal stuff, the normal
hmm
stuff, and it doesn't do much for me really. So
I gotcha. I mean, hey, those deeper cuts, that's what makes us true fans of music, you know, you gotta dig deep.
absolutely, I might send you the track that I'm thinking about. I might send you that actually,
Oh,
and
hey.
for you to have a little listen to it.
I'd love it. It'd be incredible. I love your channel. So much great stuff. Viewers, I'll
And
make sure to
you.
link Jamie's channel in the description box below. I'm sorry, Jamie, I talked over you. What'd you say?
No, that's fantastic, Alex. We're bound to talk over each other a bit. That's fine.
It's all right. It's all in the, yeah, just so our viewers know too, this is not scripted. Jamie and I sat down and worked out what we wanted to talk about and just went with it too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
perfect, perfect.
I'd like to just say a little bit about Brian's first album because I was blown away when I first heard this album was coming out and then first heard Love and Mercy. I just love that album. Yeah, there it is, a couple of tracks maybe that aren't so strong, but Rio Grande and
Hmm.
Melt Away and Love and Mercy and Little Children and the track with Jeff Lynne, you know, it was a great album. It really
It
was.
is. And you know, it's kind of overlooked today. One,
Yeah,
because you can get the super deluxe versions with twice as many songs and the alternate
yeah,
takes and Let's Go to Heaven in My Car and a million other things too. So I think
absolutely.
that the core album is kind of like drowned by all that stuff. But yeah, this is a really good one. And this and his Smile, Presents Smile, and the Pet Sounds Live, those were the three I listened to the day he died. Those are the first ones that I thought, that came to my mind to listen to. But yeah, no, this is a very good one too. Melt Away is actually one of my
Oh,
favorite of his solo tracks too. And of course, Love and Mercy is his signature song. But
yeah.
yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, and he was back. When they said Brian was back in the 70s, he wasn't
Hmm.
really, in fairness. I mean, he was back doing 15 big ones and lots of other covers. And then Love You, of course, which you did a great review on, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
That Love You was a really great, great album review. I love that. And I love that. I love Love You.
Oh, I do too. It was so fun to talk about because Love You is often cited as the album you either love it or you hate it. But there's so
Mm,
much just unusual stuff on there. I think everyone should listen to Love You at least a few
definitely.
times. You know, some Beach Boys fans can't stand it, but there's a lot of cool stuff on there.
Very cool. Some great songs. And I remember getting it from the record store in my home city in England. When in those days you go to the record store and they actually had a display of Love You in the window. And holy
Wow.
crap, got it home on my dad's hi-fi and I just couldn't stop playing it. Solar System, Roller Skating Child, all
There you
Brian masterpieces.
go. Now, Jamie, gotta ask you, were you the guy who kept playing Ding Dang over and over and over again?
That's the one I
Or was that the one you lifted up the stylus and skipped?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I gotcha. I
I
gotcha.
wasn't, no, I don't know about this ding dang. Long story with that, isn't there? But it was definitely the track I wasn't so keen on really. But yeah,
No, I gotcha.
look at that. Yeah, great.
So definitely a classic. I had a lot of fun making that video and got a lot of great comments, people with their favorite songs from it and
They
this and
really,
that.
really do.
I was gonna do a 15 Big Ones review this year, but I think I'll wait till next year for its anniversary. It'll be what, 50 next year. So
Amazing.
save that. Literally call it 50 Big Ones, even though that name is
Yeah,
taken.
50 big ones. And again, when that one came out, I went to the record store, the same one, there it was in the window, all displayed. And, rock and roll music, and it's okay. But, when I played that album and the last couple of tracks were a bit sad, and I think I said to my wife at the time to Sue, I said, this could be their last album. How wrong I was.
Well, people don't care much for it. I liked it because it was the first 1970s Beach Boys album that I had. So I listened
Okay.
to it a lot because it was so much different. I had all their 60s ones. I didn't have any of their 70s ones. So I
Right.
listened to it a lot. And it was the first Beach Boys album that I had on both vinyl and CD. So I could
Okay.
listen to it either way. So I listened to 15 Big Ones a lot. And I mean, it has its flaws. I get
Of
that.
course.
TM songs, kind of weird. Some of the covers don't quite land, but I have a lot of fun with this one too, and It's Okay is my favorite of all their 1970s songs, which I know that's a weird pick for a favorite, but
How about that? Yeah,
but
for sure.
love it.
But yeah, so with the first album, and of course there were lots of things happening before his first album, weren't there? With Andy Paley and not with Andy Paley, with um hmm,
I mean, you could go back to the 60s, all his different production work for other artists,
of
and
course, yeah.
the
Gary
Honeys
Usher,
and
Gary
oh,
Usher
Terry
was real,
Melcher, yeah,
yeah, and Gary Usher was they were working together, weren't they? And then a lot of those songs morphed into Brian's first album.
yeah, and a good album it was, a good place to start.
Absolutely. And then rolling on. yeah, I mean, what happened after that? Then we had I just wasn't made for these times. You've
Yep.
got it. You talk to me about it.
Oh, I love it. Love the video, or not the video, I guess the documentary, I should say. That
Documentary.
goes with it as well, too. They
Mm.
got so many people to interview and stuff like that. And Brian, you can tell he's kind of run down and sad, but he still turns in a good performance. It's kind of I think, a more personal look than most
Mm.
documentary films would do. And indeed, his performance, again, we have basically a cover album, but
Sure.
doing these with, his piano and light backing and stuff works really well. I'm glad he revisited some that we don't see too often, like Meant
Yeah.
for You,
Yeah.
Wonderful, Still I Dream of It. Still I Dream of It was
Absolutely.
never even on an album, I don't think, only on collections. So,
Sure. Sure.
but no, I was very impressed with this.
Absolutely. And another breath of fresh air. And Brian was working, and that was the important thing. There weren't all these gaps of 5 years. Something else had come out. Don was making the documentary and working with Brian, inspired them both, feed off
Hmm.
each other. And I think Brian, like when I was talking with David the other week, the emotional security is those two words are the things that he didn't really have once Van Dyke Parks left the Smile Project. I think that emotional security started evaporating, I think. And the boys was, there's negativity from the company and from some of the boys and this and that. And, but once he'd regained his emotional security, which took a long time, he
But
started
yeah,
working.
no, absolutely. I like that. And we've been blessed to get at least some of those Andy Paley recordings from a little bit later, kind of
Absolutely.
pieces and parts here and there. We need a big official release of all of them, of course,
Don't
but
we?
that might
Don't we?
never happen. I don't know. But I'm glad we have at least some of them to enjoy.
For sure. And they worked together so well. They really did feed off each other, didn't they?
Yeah.
And on the first album and then all those other tracks. And I do get a feeling that there will be some releases because you've got it, haven't you, in honor of him.
Yeah.
Uh, because we've got all these scratchy old bootleggy, half recorded, half, some of the things that aren't that great. I'm sure we can get decent recordings of them. And I'm sure that the record, in honor of him, there'll be movement happening there, I'm sure. Sadly, in a way, after his piano album, I didn't ever think we'd see anything else. So he was talking about a rock and roll album or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Um, but I think I'm just so blessed that we've got what we've got.
Yeah. And quite a few too. I would say he's the most
Mhm.
prolific of all their solo
Absolutely.
albums. I believe Brian has
Incredible.
the most. Yeah.
Yeah, because if we look at, the obviously prolific in the 60s with the band, and then there's sort of a bit of a gap time, 85 on the Beach Boys album, which I think got him back into working a little bit, actually. I think that 85 album, which I love.
Me too.
Yeah, underrated, really good.
Some people say the production's kind of a turnoff because it's such a relic of its time. It is very
80s.
80s, but which
Yeah.
is why I thought California Calling was always kind of strange because even though I like that song, it's a throwback when everything else is trying to be
Yeah.
modern. But no,
Yeah,
I love Beach Boys 85. A lot of
I
fun
do.
ones on there.
And he got it, he and Steve Levine worked quite well. They worked well together. They got to know each other. And again, it got him working, you
Yeah,
know. And I think that was yeah, it's a great album. Yeah, for sure.
very enjoyable. I like that one
Very
a
much.
lot. Now, you had a chance to see Brian live with the rest of the group, right? As a part of the Beach Boys?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw him the first time I saw him, I saw the Beach Boys without Brian in Wembley in '75, which was a great gig. I mean, that was a great gig with Elton John and Eagles, and
Wow.
that was a great gig. And the Beach Boys blew everyone away, to be honest. They really. But the first time that I saw Brian on stage with the boys was at Knebwoth. Yeah, look at that.
Were you at this concert? Live
Yeah.
at Knebworth? Good timing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I haven't got that actually. I haven't got
Oh,
it.
I think
I'm
it's
sure.
out of print, which is strange,
Probably.
but
Yeah,
and
probably.
then
Yeah. Yeah, I heard it all live. It was raining actually. It started. We were camping We were camping.
Okay.
You could camp in the field, of Knebwoth House. It's a great posh house, one of these English stately home type things. And in the grounds, the stage was set up, and you could camp. It was a horrible. But it was great because Keeping the Summer Alive had just come out,
Yep.
and Brian had composed a handful of songs for it, and I liked it actually. Again, it doesn't get great reviews, but for the time, I thought it was all right.
It's a hard album to review because it's all over the place.
It's
And
all over
reading
the
about,
place.
yeah, and reading about its production, where Brian was in charge, and then Carl was in charge for a time, and Bruce was in charge for a time, but they could veto each other and outvote each other. Just was,
Yeah.
I'm amazed we got an album as good as we did because it seems like nobody knew what was going on the whole
Yeah, I
time.
don't think they did, absolutely. But some classics on there, Going On, and
Yep.
was a amazing Brian song, an incredible song. One of the classics, really.
So I
The,
gotta
the,
say, oh, go ahead, Jamie. I'm sorry, I talked
yeah,
over
the,
you.
the performance was great, and they had a big white hand that inflated on the stage. Like it suddenly came up this flipping great big white inflatable hand. I don't know what that was about. Uh, but there was Brian on the piano, and he sang "Surfer Girl," all the classics. He was singing for sure. He definitely was, and I think Dennis did some great bits, and Carl. It was a great gig, actually.
Yeah. No, I mean, the concert film looks amazing. I'll have to watch next time, see if I can see you in some of the crowd scenes or not. I don't
Yeah,
know, but
waterproof
yeah.
jacket with. I don't,
But
don't
they
think.
do talk about it raining in the album too, so that makes sense.
Oh
But
right, okay. So it was
yeah,
true.
the concert film's great too, but they cut so much out to make this
Yeah,
album. They did 5 or 6 songs, I think, from Keepin' the Summer Alive. We have two. We have the title
yeah.
track and we
Oh
have
no,
School Day.
they did. Yeah,
So
they did about a half. Yeah, a handful. Yeah, they did. And
yeah,
that's what I
so
like to hear. I love the we all love the classics, but I love to hear Brian's new stuff all the time.
mhm.
There's always a little gem in there.
Absolutely. Even if he's covering someone else's song or something, he always puts his spin on it. You know,
Definitely.
gotta love that.
How long have you been a fan, Alex? I know
Oh,
because you're only a young guy, aren't you, anyway?
mhm. I refuse to say my real age, but I've been
Okay.
a fan for about 15 years. I got into the Beach Boys in my teens, and Dennis Wilson already passed on. Carl Wilson had passed on when I was a child. So
Mm.
by the time I was going to Beach Boys shows, it was Mike and Bruce or, Al, Brian, Blondie. So I never got to see Brian as part of the Beach Boys because for their 50th tour, the big anniversary, they did not come anywhere near where I live, not even
Oh,
close. I was so mad.
where do you live exactly?
I'm in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, so I have to
Oh,
drive a couple hours for concerts, which is fine. And I drove almost 4 hours to see Al Jardine once, but for this tour, they weren't anywhere close to me. It
oh
was
wow.
ridiculous. So that
Oh
was
yeah,
such a bummer.
that it was a great that's the other time, of course, I saw them in London. That 2012, we were full of it was just wow, this is just happening. It was wonderful with all the new songs on the album. Yeah, why did what was the yeah, that's why God made the radio. A great album.
No, I loved this. I bought it the day it came out. I got to go and stand in line for a Beach Boys album for the
Did
first
you?
time. It was pretty cool. But yeah, this was really good though. And so I'm surprised now because I don't think they do songs live from this anymore. I don't think they've done them live for years. You would
Ridiculous.
think for young people, like my students' age and stuff, this might be the
Sure.
first Beach Boys album they ever heard. So it's really
Absolutely.
surprising,
Absolutely.
why wouldn't you do that? I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised, and Brian recorded more tracks as well, didn't he? He did. There was a
Mhm.
number of others that never really came out.
Uh,
Or maybe they have, and I missed them.
I know some of them work their way to no peer pressure
Yeah,
in one form or another. That might not be exactly what they would have been if they'd stayed, official Beach Boys. That's why God made
yeah,
the radio recordings. But at least some of these I know were
you're
tinkered with
right.
during that time.
And
So,
now you've got that there. What do you think of it?
oh, I love this one. And I
So
listened
do I.
a couple of them I listened to the other day, Sail Away and The Right Time. And
Yeah,
I had to get the bonus version. You can see the big obnoxious Target sticker on there
yeah, I
because
get
this has the Brian solo recording of In the Back of My Mind, which I think
yeah.
is the only place this was released.
Okay,
So I
yeah,
had to have that. And that's incredible too. That's a
isn't it?
very good recording.
Yeah, it's the deluxe version, and you know, in it stands the test of time. And I like the guest vocalists actually. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, it's not Brian singing," but he's still singing on them. You know, backing vocals, even and
Yep,
duets.
yep.
And yeah,
And
I,
we got
I
lots and lots of different guest stars too on there.
yeah,
So
and I think it's one of my favorite solo albums of his actually.
it's a good, I would say this one's up there pretty high for me too. I don't know if it's my number one favorite, but it's pretty close because this has a lot of good stuff and
Yeah,
a very personal album of his too, I think.
sure, very
Very
personal. And the thing is,
retrospective.
yeah, and in the studio when you see him directing the guys, he was in charge,
Hmm.
totally in charge, on fire. Incredible.
Yeah, well, I think he gets a production credit. Yeah, produced by Brian Wilson for this album, though it is also noted underneath executive producers Mike Love. So, but they managed to get along pretty well
Yep,
anyway. They managed
they
to keep it
did.
together.
Just for a year or so.
Yep, well, even then, they all got back together for the release of that documentary film and stuff. They did some guest
That's
spots. And I have to say, Jamie, I'm glad that when Brian passed, he was on good terms with all the surviving band. At least
oh,
it seemed like he was on good terms with all the surviving band members.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more, you know. And when you saw them at the beach where they the photos were taken for Surfing Safari, and they were all having a drink together, and then Mike Love said, "I just love him. I love him," in tears. There it is.
Yep.
It pulled your heartstrings big time, and I'd like to hug the lot of them. I'd hug them, and even though Mike had his things, you know, it's almost like we forgive one another, we love one another.
Hmm. No, that's very well put. And that's just the thing. For all the squabbles and the lawsuits and everything, at the end of the day, they did
Yeah,
love each other and they did care about each other. So,
exactly, Alex. And
and
isn't that a something for all our lives, you know, to grab hold
mhm.
of?
No,
You know, and we all,
absolutely.
it's easy to fall out with someone or say the wrong thing or something like that. But at the end of the day, you still love one another. And yeah, great legacy. Mm.
And I feel bad because you think of some other bands where they haven't been on speaking, members haven't been on speaking terms for decades and stuff like that. I love Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Okay, yeah.
When they pass on, they're not going to go to each other's funerals, I wouldn't think.
No.
It's sad.
It's very common, isn't it? And you know, you go onto YouTube sometime and a musician will say the five musicians they can't stand or the bands they hate. And you think, hang on, what can we say?
Yeah. I mean, as
You know,
frustrating as it is it worth hating someone for the entire
no,
rest of yours or their life?
no,
It's not, you know.
never, never. You know, we've got to spread the love. And that's what Brian, one of his sayings always was he just wanted the music to bring love to people.
He was
And
right.
I don't know any other artist like that, actually. You know, he's unique. He, he's brought so much wealth of love to popular music, to music in general, and to life. And, you know, um, yeah, we've got to hang on to that.
And we got to unleash the love as well. So
You've got everything at hand. I'm so impressed,
I
Alex. It's
think so.
brilliant.
I probably left
But
something downstairs, but
if I take something off the shelf, the whole lot will fall down. Yeah, man, that's great.
no,
Yeah,
I'm a prop YouTuber. I got to hold things up, keep my hands busy.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, I'm not really either. I'm just a beach bum, you know.
Well, that's all right too.
Yeah. What are we going to move on to next? So, uh, orange. You've got it again.
Yeah, guess I
I
can
know.
open it up.
No, yeah. Fantastic. Hey, what do you think? Tell me about it.
Well, this is the one that has them both instrumentally and regularly. So it's a little strange because sometimes I prefer listening to like the finished song, but there's a lot of beautiful instrumentation in here. Now, it isn't as good as something like Smile. To me, it's not as memorable, it's not quite as experimental, but there's some beautiful stuff in here.
Mm,
And Brian, I know, was very upset that this one never really caught on. I don't think it charted
no,
or much of anything. It
no, I don't
just
think
kind
it
of,
did. It didn't chart. No,
yeah,
no.
just kind of disappeared.
Yeah. David Leaf rates it very highly, and
Okay.
I think he said, it's disappointing that it got nowhere.
Yeah, and today the Brian Anthology Collection, which I have here somewhere,
Oh
it's one of
yes,
the few albums that's skipped. There's nothing,
yeah,
from
skipped.
it. Yep,
Yeah, that's a
and
shame
that's
though.
it is. So,
A nice
but what can you
collection
do?
though, a nice collection, but that was skipped. And Van Dyke, incredibly talented man and a very, very nice man. To see them at Smile for me was one of the highlights of my life. Yeah.
Well, Jamie, I hate to say it, but we are almost out of time for today. So, what do you say we pick this up again? And
Yeah. Let's we'll do volume two, shall we?
all right, sounds good to me. So.
Because we've only done half of it.
And there's another half yet to do. So, hey, comment your favorite Brian Wilson songs and albums below. Make sure to check out Jamie's channel and subscribe. It'll be linked below. Jamie, any parting words for our friends and fans?
We're all together in our loss. We've got to keep strong and keep promoting Brian's music to the world, to our friends. Keep loving one another. Hold strong. Keep playing the music. Keep talking about our wonderful genius friend, and hang on to the memories.
Hey, nothing to add to that. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Alex, it's been a fantastic pleasure to meet you. Seen your show so many times. Very, very, really great meeting you. We'll do it again.
Hey, yep. So, hey, stay tuned for part two, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this part. Love and mercy, my friends. Go out there and listen to some of Brian's best work, and we'll see you next time. So long.
Bye. Bye, guys.